So, welcome back to Star Wars Iceberg. This is going to be part two. So, yeah, you should watch part one, but you don't have to. I don't really care what you do. So, yeah, here it is.
Master Windu. I take it General Grievous has been destroyed, then. I must say you're here sooner than expected.
In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, you're under arrest, Chancellor.
Are you threatening me, Master Jedi?
The Senate will decide your fate.
I am the Senate.
Not yet.
It's treason, then.
You are under arrest, my lord.
Anakin, I told you it would come to this. I was right. The Jedi are taking over.
The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have lost.
No. 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 You will die. He's a traitor.
He is the traitor!
I have the power to save the one you love. You must choose.
Don't listen to him, Anakin!
Don't let him kill me. I can't hold it any longer. I can't. I'm weak. Too weak. Anakin! Help me! Help me! I can't hold on any longer.
I am going to end this, once and for all.
You can't. He must stand trial.
He has control of the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive.
I'm too weak. Don't kill me, please.
It's not the Jedi way. He must live.
Please don't.
I need him.
Please don't. No.
She is ancient and powerful and dangerous. Very dangerous, but you're on her now. She is never what she appears. Remember that. Mary Jade Skywalker. Abeloth was an extremely dangerous and forced sense of being one affiliated with the Ones. I personally think she was an absolute abomination of the dark side of the Force. She was once a mortal woman on an unnamed jungle planet who became known as the servant among the Ones. Remember the father, son, and daughter. The mother is what she later became to be known as, because she took on the responsibility to keep peace between the rivalry between the son and daughter. After a while, she noticed that she was aging while the Ones didn't, and she worried that the Ones would leave her. Abeloth went on to the Font of Power, which was a place where the dark side was centered, and drank from it. Then she went down to the Pool of Knowledge, which was another center of the Force, and bathed in it. The result was a twisted, corrupted abomination of the dark and light sides of the Force with immense power. Using her newfound power, Abeloth seduced and made the son and daughter bow down before her. The father later found out about her actions, and he took away the son and daughter from her. This resulted in Abeloth going mad. The Ones knew of the potential horrors Abeloth was capable of, so they used the bug-like Killick's advanced technology to lock Abeloth in a cage made of black holes known as the Maw. She did escape multiple times, but the Ones always put her back in her place. This cycle kept on repeating itself for thousands of years until the Ones all died in 21.8 BDY. It was then that she could make her terrors on the galaxy known. It wasn't until 60 years later she began to influence the minds of some Jedi sheltering near the Maw. She would later finally escape and befriend a Sith strike team that was hunting Luke Skywalker. As people became more and more knowledgeable about Abeloth, the more and more they needed to cut her down. Luke Skywalker later allied himself with some Sith to go and battle her in the Maw. They went out and cut down her influence across the galaxy, though she was never really killed. Just in case she were to return, the Jedi Order took control of the Dagger of Mortis, probably the only thing that could kill her. Project Blackwing, or also known as the Sickness, was originally created by a Sith around 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin to grant immortality, but it did not have the desired effect. The Sickness eventually fell into the interest of Darth Vader. He employed the Imperial Biological Weapons Division to recreate it in a highly classified project named Blackwing on its Star Destroyer. They recreated it and studied it for use in a highly lethal weapon. The results of the Sickness were undead monstrosities that felt the need to feast upon the living. The actual Sickness itself was a sentient virus made using a part of a Murakami orchid, a self-aware flower that could telepathically communicate with Force-sensitive beings. When first infected, usually airborne or transferred via bite, symptoms included coughing, mucus buildup, fever, hallucinations, gastrointestinal disturbances, profuse internal bleeding, cardiac arrest, seizure, and coma. This usually happened hours, minutes, or seconds after being infected. What could be treated by either antivirus, amputating a limb where someone was bitten, or eating the still beating heart of a Jedi with a high midichlorian count for some reason unknown to me. Overall, a pretty terrifying way to die. The Tarkin was essentially the stripped-down version of the Death Star. It was really just a super laser with not much extra. They attached shields and engines to make it more mobile. The Tarkin may have been a more dangerous version of the Death Star. After the destruction of the original Death Star at the Battle of Yavin, the Emperor ordered Bevel Lemelisk to design a new version of the Death Star. It saw construction at Patron Station and fixed the major issues with the first Death Star. The Tarkin saw completion 3 ABY. Somewhat later, a rebel by the name of Merabatev led a spy mission into the Patron's shipyards and stole the blueprints of the Tarkin. At that time, the Tarkin was not completely operational, so the rebels decided to secretly infiltrate it instead of a head-on assault. A rebel general decided to send out a squad to go into the Tarkin made of Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, Chewbacca, C-3PO, and R2-D2. As they infiltrated the superweapon using the Millennium Falcon, Darth Vader was on the Tarkin for inspection. He felt the presence of Luke and ordered all Imperial forces to gang up on the Rebel strike team. So, the Rebel party split up into 3 groups to destroy an aspect of the Tarkin. Luke went down to the main power reactor with a proton grenade, but Darth Vader was already there. Before they could fight, an Imperial officer who hated Darth Vader opened an airlock and tried to send Vader into space, but neither Luke nor Vader fell into space and closed the airlock. Meanwhile, Leia was able to switch some mechanisms so that when the Tarkin fired, it would explode. As the Rebel strike team was leaving, the Tarkin was fired and it blew up. The Celestials were a group also known as the Architects, were a long-dead civilization that probably existed thousands or even millions of years before the events of Star Wars. They were inconceivably powerful, molding the expanse with moving planets, black holes, and stars as they wished. No one ever knows what they looked like, theories ranging from taking any shape to being completely one with the Force. Most of the evidence left behind from them were some super weapons and the creation of the Corellian and Voltar systems, and at least 17 others. They also created the ring of black holes known as the Maw to contain Abeloth. They created these systems via Sinkhole Station and Centerpoint Station. Centerpoint Station was like a giant tractor beam that could move heavenly bodies from light years away. The Celestials were also may have been responsible for a kind of hyperspace barrier around the galaxy that made traveling outside the galaxy very, very difficult, but not impossible. Why did they build it? Was it to keep something out or keep it contained? Where or what happened to them is a complete mystery. It may have been Rikata uprisings, war, or even Abeloth. It will continue to be kept as a mystery for quite a while. Did you know that Palpatine being revived in the sequel trilogy isn't a original idea? The Dark Empire, or Empire Reborn, was the Empire revived by a resurrected Darth Sidious. He was revived by taking the spirit and possessing Jen Droga, one member of the Emperor's hand, and then using clone bodies. In 10 ABY, Darth Sidious decided to make his grand return with the Force Storm, a flurry of dark side energy, and a wormhole on the Imperial reconquered Coruscant. Luke Skywalker somehow managed to be kidnapped, and Sidious seemingly turned Luke to the dark side. Sidious then launched a ravaging attack on Mon Cal using his World Devastators, a super weapon that turned materials on a planet into weapons and other such things, like the Starforge. Luke Skywalker, meanwhile, had faked his apprenticeship to Palpatine and leaked codes that could help in destroying the World Devastators. Sidious then launched an attack on Pinnacle Moon, the headquarters of the New Republic, and tried to destroy it using a Force Storm. The plan backfired on Palpatine when Luke and Leia were gonna use the Force to counter the storm, using that to kill Palpatine, but he did manage to find a new clone body. Palpatine was finally killed in an incident when he tried to possess a child of Han and Leia that spelled the end of the Dark Empire. It had strong militaries, with many superweapons, such as the aforementioned World Devastators. Another superweapon they had was the Eclipse. It was an 11-kilometer Star Destroyer with a super laser attached to it. It was destroyed when Palpatine tried to end Pinnacle Moon. The Techno Beasts were part machine and part organic abominations created by a nanogene spore infecting a living organism. The transformation began with the virus traveling to the brain and lobotomizing the frontal brain lobe, making someone incapable of complex thought. Then the organic tissue in the victim and transforming it into metal components. When the transformation fully took place, all organic tissue was mostly rotted away, and all that was left was a metallic body with potential pieces of skin still hanging on. They could be armed with bladed limbs and elbows, clubs, and a blaster cannon. It was known that Rancor and Bantha Techno Beasts existed. The virus was created by a small group of unknown Sith magicians that used Mekuduru, a force technique that could allow one to manipulate metal components. But those secrets eventually fade away. It wasn't later in the new Sith Wars that Sith Belia Darzi recreated. The newly formed army of Techno Beasts were stored in a stronghold on Tython. They were then used on attack against the Jedi Order and the Old Republic. The Techno Beasts started to die out with the assassination of Darzu. The Silentium were a species of sentient droids created by an unknown organic star-shaped species wiped out by a supernova. These droids improved and reproduce all by themselves and have a culture based on the numbers 5, 7, and 11. They took on many shapes, with the circle be considering the holiest. The wisest among the Silentium formed themselves into an absolute massive 55-kilometer sphere for whatever reason. The most influential among their society was known as the One and the Other. Maybe some of the first Silentium. They were forced out of their home galaxy because of a war with the Abominors. They were eventually settled in the unknown region of the Star Wars galaxy. The Silentium made themselves known in the galaxy on a few rare occasions because they did not feel the need to get involved with the affairs of the rest of the galaxy. Still sails. Alright, there isn't a lot from this, so I'm going to read the only description off Wikipedia. By the way, I did not write it. The still sail was a type of membranous creature that lived in the Stratos distribution, a vast unknown region's corridor of dust asteroids made up of ice and mineral-rich rock, and features of crystalline comet fronds. The stealth sails measured more than 100,000 kilometers across, and they shared their habitat with predatory lightning jacks and asteroid-burrowing worm-like chewers, the latter of which were evolutionarily related to the sentient Lugabra species that also originated in the Stratos distribution. The Telegicon Vagabond was a 1,500-meter organic mysterious ship rumored to exist. The New Republic eventually decided to investigate the rumor around 17 ABLY with Lando Calrissian, Lobot, RTD2, and 3CPO. They discovered its organic aspects when the investigation crew entered an airlock on the ship after it jumped into hyperspace. The Vagabond, somewhere on the way, was attacked by an Imperial patrolling vessel and the Vagabond completely destroyed it, demonstrating its immense firepower. As Lando was investigating the ship, a loud screeching sound was heard aboard the vessel. The noise was the encoded DNA of an extinct species of aliens. The extinct species was later found out to be the Quella. The Quella built the organic ship as sort of Noah's Ark to preserve their species' DNA before an upcoming ice age on their home planet of Brath Quella. They armed the vessel with two weapons, one being an EM whip, a weapon that could knock out electrons and entire crews on an enemy ship, and the scythe weapon, which emitted three beams that came together to absolutely obliterate a ship from as far as 35 kilometers away. Luke Skywalker later secretly helped escort the starship back to Brath Quella, where the species could have resurrected in an estimated 100 to 100,000 year time spans.
According to my information, it should appear in this quadrant here, just south of the Rishi Maze.
I hate to say it, but it looks like the system you're searching for doesn't exist.
Impossible. Perhaps the archives are incomplete.
If an item does not appear in our records, it does not exist.
Surprised to see this here, because I recently had a personal encounter with the shocking device. I switched it off and I'm happy never knowing whether it was fake or not. Luke Skywalker. The shocking device was a super weapon designed by the Shockinese around 25,000 BBY. The Shockinese were an ancient human civilization on the core world of Shockin and one of the first planets to join the Old Republic. The Shockin device, after some time, was later buried under Shockin and left to time. After the Battle of Endor, it somehow accidentally was turned on by a Corellian con artist by the name of Rick Dool and his gang. Fortunately, it was deactivated by Luke Skywalker and Kiro, an accompanier of Luke from Iskalon. The original purpose of the shocking device was to destroy the universe and recreate a new Big Bang. The thought being that it would explode, sending chunks of debris through hyperspace and strike a planet for that to create more debris. It would cause a domino effect that would lead to everything eventually being destroyed and somehow a new Big Bang would occur. One man involved with the device humorously said that he was never that depressed to end up using the universe-ending superweapon. The Nightmare Demon was a mythical species of tiny sentient primates with 4 limbs and 2 tails. Their hands had 4 digits, with the feet having 3, all with suction cups. The head of the beast, meanwhile, had the resemblance to that of a human skull with deep-set eyes. The reason why they call nightmare demons is their ability to use telepathy. They use this ability to bring a victim's worst fear and nightmares and immobilize the victim, although their abilities could be stopped using lead. The demons originated on the planet Droxine. They were supposed to have been wiped out before the Clone Wars, but some survived. The surviving specimens were kept and utilized by the Empire. A droid replicated human released a Nightmare Demon once on Luke Skywalker. The demon then used its ability on Luke, but Luke overcame it using the Force. He then struck it with a lightsaber, killing it. So, Luke probably wiped out an entire species. There isn't much known about the Kikibak. They were an extinct species who lived millions of years before the Battle of Yeth and potentially before the Celestials from Samardi 4. They were responsible for building the super weapon, the Hyperspace Nullifier. It could stop and disrupt hyperspace travel. Imperial Ethio-Galician attempted to take it and control it for the Empire, but a rebel strike team led by Han Solo managed to destroy it in the entirety of Samardi 4. And that's literally all the information we have. The sentient spacecraft, or commonly referred to as ship, was a quite literal sentient and organic ship. It roamed inside the intergalactic void in solitude for eons after ship and pilot escaped an extragalactic war that resulted in a plague bomb that wiped out all life in its home galaxy. After a while, the ship and pilot merged into one consciousness. It once found a damaged tanker in space that ended up there as a result of damaged hyperdrive that led the ship into the void. Aboard the vessel was Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa. As they moved into the ship's cargo hold, the ship sent out a droid to engage Luke in a fight. Luke ended up destroying it. An Imperial Star Destroyer had actually followed Luke and Leia in the tanker to destroy them. When the Imperials launched an attack on it, the ship launched antimatter pods that completely destroyed the enemy vessel. Luke and Leia offered the ship to be taken back into the galaxy, but he declined and continued to roam indefinitely. Star Weirds are a horrifying species of humanoid things that reside in the vacuum of the void of space. They had white and pale skin, extremely tall and very lean, almost looking like a skeleton. They had similar faces to each other, but they differed. Witnesses have even stated that Star Weirds' faces resembled their own. They didn't walk, but rather preferred to levitate off the ground. And add to their horrifying nature, they could see up to 60 feet in pure darkness. They were force-sensitive beings that had a range of dark side abilities such as draining energy, force grip, force sight, and force lightning. They would usually attack a victim, repairing a vessel in deep space, or even manifesting itself in a ship traveling through hyperspace. From there, they would let out a brain-shattering telepathic shriek, even audible in space. Star Weirds then targeted an individual target and began to maul them with its horrifying claws. They particularly like to seek out force-sensitive people. One infamous incident during the First War was when a Star Weird queen attacked the then Jedi Council and Padawan surrendered. It was defeated, though. No wonder why the Jedi thought it was a physical manifestation and abomination of the dark side of the Force. Other space was a sort of pocket dimension between real space and hyperspace. There wasn't a lot in this other dimension except a gray backdrop with some black stars and nebulas. One could travel and get stuck in outer space via hyperdrive malfunction. One native species of this realm was the Charon, I think. They were a species of humanoid arachnids that used organic technology. Their society consisted of a caste system that saw males as warriors and females as scientists who made their organic technology. The Charon existed on a planet in outer space, but their home planet was destroyed by a black hole. Most of the Charons were part of a death-worshipping cult that sought out to kill all sentient life as the Void of Death, or known as the Void of Death. For a while, the Charon had no hyperdrive technology, leaving them stuck there. Somehow, sightings of Charon existed through the galaxy only as legends or tall tales. However, a battle erupted between the Charon and a prophet of theirs and a group of rebels and imperial prisoners that had led to the Battle of the Stronghold. One dark-side prophet said that he used outer space as a key in his resurrection. Sentient Minox. The regular Minox were a species of bat-like non-sentient silicon-based life found living in space. But one group of Minox living on a dark-side-infused asteroid developed sentience, for some unbeknownst reason. They differed in looks from their regular counterparts, with triangular yellow eyes and hands on their wings. They surprisingly had a society and kept records via sculptures and tassels. At some point, the elite among them exiled themselves inside the asteroid, and some of them died of starvation from not feeding on the radiation they fed off of. Somehow, one Minox tapped into the dark side and used its abilities to conquer the asteroid. Not being able to reproduce for some reason meant that they died out some hundreds of years before the Battle of Yavin. There are 9 distinct galaxies somewhat talked about in Star Wars, 2 of which are the home galaxies of the Yuzong Vong and Ship. The other 7 are several small dwarf galaxies that orbit the main Star Wars galaxy. Now, traveling to other galaxies was dangerous because of the hyperspace boundary around the galaxy and the potential of going mad. The main 2 of those dwarf galaxies are the Rishi Maze and Fire Fist. The only notable thing in the Rishi Maze was a rebel energy mining facility orbiting a black hole, named Firebase Alpha, established somewhere before the Battle of Yavin. Han Solo and Chewbacca were once tasked with sending supplies to the base in desperate needs of essentials. On their way, they encountered a long-abandoned Sith warship that sent out attack droids after the Millennium Falcon, which they were in. The supplies they were carrying were actually a bomb that was meant to destroy Firebase, but it was thrown into a black hole before it could do anything. Fire Fist, on the other hand, has a little more going on in it. It is mostly unexplored except for some expeditions with probe droids. It was the home of several sentient species of humanoids, such as the Faerun, Macabre, Nagai, and Toph. Some of these species actually invaded the Star Wars galaxy, but those conflicts did not last as long and were not as devastating as the Yuzong Vong War. The Faerun were a conquered species of the Toph that built the space fleet of the Toph. The Toph were a species of green humanoids that were muscular and dangerous fighters. The Macabres were a species of cephalopods that once existed on a planet occupied by the Toph. The Nagai were a species of blue near humans that focused on discipline and warfare. There is a sort of afterlife in the Star Wars universe. This place was called the Netherworld of the Forest. After death, a being's soul was set to go to this Netherworld. Several Jedi, such as Qui-Gon Jinn, who came back from the Netherworld, came as a Force ghost. One region of the Netherworld was known as Chaos, a sort of hell for evil beings. It was contained by 6 gates. It is said that Palpatine came back from the dead from Chaos with the help of several other Sith spirits during the Dark Empire. We've all seen the opening text to Star Wars as a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So does that mean Earth exists in the Star Wars universe? There have been references to hell, dogs, deers, ferrets, and even a hamster in the Star Wars universe. But that may not mean anything. One spin-off non-canon comic came out once where Han Solo and Chewbacca have hyperdrive malfunction. They somehow travel to Earth. They land on the planet, and Han is killed by some natives on Earth. Chewie manages to escape and later becomes known as Bigfoot. Did you ever wonder where humans came from in Star Wars? One scrap comic once took on the question. It says that humanity became advanced and created an AI that later overtook Earth. The survivors of humanity later escaped and slipped into a wormhole that transported them into the Star Wars galaxy. Who knows, maybe humans were the original celestials that molded the galaxy and spread out life. When they fell, they probably all became isolated and morphed into the humanoids throughout the galaxy. Who knows, maybe he exists in the Star Wars universe, or the Star Wars universe exists in our universe. We may never know. So that was the Star Wars Iceberg. I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, if you didn't like it, I don't really care. So yeah, I might work on other icebergs in the future, and this is one of my last video ideas. So yeah. Yeah, see you sometime later. Something like that.